I want to know from you, because you're around it every day. You're looking at it. I know you crush tape, like all of this stuff when it comes to Justin Fields. How are we supposed to evaluate him knowing that he might not have the best collection of talent around him? It's like, what are things you're looking for from year 1 to year 2 that you need to see that are independent of the cast around Justin Fields?
All right. Independent of Justin, you better be dominant. You better be great. You better be consistent at one thing. Okay, if you're going to tell us, everybody since you brought in this coaching staff, that we're going to run outside zone, you better be perfect at it. And that's what I was saying about my high school program. We're successful. We win the state championship, but we run the same 4 or 5 plays every year since I've been there, and still to the day. And we run them perfectly. And even if you know what we're going to do, you can't stop. So if they have an element, okay, we have to have this outside from tackle to tight end to wide receiver. We better defend this area perfectly, or David Montgomery and the rest of the Khalil Herbert and the rest of the running backs, they're going to have a couple thousand yards rushing at this one play. So now you got a defense that has such outside concern to stop this running game. It opens up this whole portion of the field for Justin. And that is those outside bootlegs. That's play action. That's a tight end faking a block and getting to the second level when he's being, he's got a defensive end over him, and now he doesn't have the ability to cover.
One thing I love about the Shanahan tree is, and this goes back to Mike, run it until they stop it.
Right, exactly.
And this was those Broncos teams that always had a 1,500-yard rusher, right? Whether it was Mike Anderson or Terrell Davis.
Uh-huh. Is it Alex Gibbs?
Well, that's
the offensive line coach.
Well, that's that halfway illegal chop block on the edge there coming back down the line.
It's not halfway illegal. That's a biggest concern. And you know what, Dan? I'll tell you a story. When we used to be chop blockers ourselves, I was out there snapping punts once before a game against the Buffalo Bills. And Fred Smerlis, the nose guard, and Bruce Smith came up to me.
Have fun with that.
They came up to me and they approached me on the field. They go, "Look, man, you got to stop that cutting stuff. You're illegal. You got to stop that." In the very first play, I pulled on this play. I pulled on the first play and I cut Bruce Smith the first play of the game. And then Fred Smerlis went and wrote a book that year and called me the dirtiest player in the NFL.
Nice.
Yeah.
Listen, it's not so much, it's the concern of the defense. So, Lawrence, if you run that one play perfectly, man, and you got Cole Kmet blocking like George Kittle, and if you got Larry Borum and whomever the other offensive tackles are dominating that defensive end position, now you got to keep 2 defenders always on the backside because of the threat of Justin's athleticism. Now can you run that same play and have an easy outside pass that you don't have to sit there and read the field? You know exactly where it's going. You're so influencing the defense because they know what they have to stop first in order to stop your offense. Now they're concentrating bodies here, and there's Justin out the backside.
That's a problem I have with Nagy, is that something would work and you wouldn't see it again
for the fourth quarter.
Right. I go, wait a second, you got 8 yards off of that out of standard personnel. You weren't screwing around with little packages.
And David Montgomery's on the sideline for this next play.
Can I go back to the Terry Shea? Exactly.
Let's start let's build up. Let's start with Gary Croton.
No,
first.
let's go Terry Shea to Matt Nagy.
Okay.
Because Terry Shea, he used to carry this playbook that was the size of, 3 thick books together. And he'd say, "Oh man, I got 1,200 plays in here." And then Matt Nagy I got 800 plays.
Which one works?
Yeah, they're plastered all over my house.
Anybody who's got more plays, they know less about football. Because they're trying to continuously fool the person instead of running something perfectly. So if you get me an offensive coordinator that's got a thin playbook, but we run every one of these perfectly, and no matter what you do, it's like Ditka used to say, I should go to the offensive line and say, "We're running right here. We're going to do it." And that's the mentality that you have to have. You got to do that one thing perfectly. And I also said you have to have a deceptive snap count on the road. Because if you take Justin on the road and you have that center that's going to look between his legs, look up, look between his legs, look up and snap the ball, you're playing right into the hands of the defense, and you're making it more difficult for Justin.
Okay, I dig that. So when it comes to Justin, what are you looking for from him specifically?
just to understand what his positive traits are and continue to develop them. He's super accurate 25. He's so much more accurate downfield than what Trubisky was. He's got the ability to outrun any defender that's going to chase him, but it's going to take that element of perfection that's going to help him develop his traits because they're doing something at the line of scrimmage so well.
So drill down on, let's say it's 10 plays. But you can dress them up by flipping formations. You can use motion sometimes. You can use that book of that thin book of 10 plays to make your offense good without being like, we have 100,000 plays.
Right.
Just do the same stuff, but do it better.
Do it perfect. Not better. We can't be better. We got to be perfect. And that's the thing about it. When you talk about an outside zone, when you talk about, slant 45 is where I was isolated on the linebacker where you're standing. Jay has got the nose guard. Keith Van Horn has got to block the defensive end. So now we have 3 individual blocks that we need to be successful in order for Walter Payton to get with a running start 2.5 yards, and then he'll get 2.5 on his own anyway.
But you're even on the numbers.
Yes.
You got one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one.
But we all have to have perfect blocks and all for the play to be successful. When you're talking about an outside zone, it's if you're the tight end here and Dan's the center here and I'm the guard, man, we are going full speed. And it doesn't matter who's there. We're going full speed to create that edge. So David Montgomery is coming around that we're going from first level to second level. And it doesn't matter where the defenders are because we're working in perfection with each other. That's creating that seam. Now, as soon as the defense understands that we're creating that seam and they're trying to stop that play from being 60, right? Bang. Then all of a sudden you're out the back door. All of a sudden Cole Kmet's holding his block, and then, because this defensive end's not going to cover him, now he's out in the flat with 9 yards in front of him. And you're talking about a series of successful first downs. We're not talking about Justin, it's a 70, we just returned the kickoff to the 25-yard line. Now we have to have a one-play scoring drive. No. Let's just get 4 yards per attempt. Let's get consecutive first downs. Let's have a time consumption offense because of that outside zone that you can use other elements of success, but you're keeping your offense on the field.
And let's beat the defense down with the amount of plays that we're
exactly
so that they're going to make a mistake.
Defenses are built for 3 and out. Their physical conditioning and the mentality of the way they play the game. If you get an offense on there that can have sustainability and time consumption, you're both going to wear down the offense and you're going to be able to open up more elements.
You know what else it does? It takes the other team's highly paid pass rushers out of impactful positions. Because the teams that have spent money on those disruptors, of those guys who can wreck a game, they're not going to wreck it on 3rd and 1. They're going to wreck it on 3rd and 8.
Right. Dan, that's exactly the point. The very first game. So we're lined up again, tight end, tackle, guard. Here we are. And we have a 245-pound Nick Bosa. Am I going to let him rush the passer repeatedly against Justin? Because he's going to be able to hear the snap count. It's going to be a home game. The crowd's going to be quiet. Justin's going to be going there and calling out vocally the snap count. And then he becomes familiar with the timing of the count. Now we're going to run right at him. I am going to drive Nick Bosa into the ground repeatedly. I am not going to let him get in 3rd and 8 and get to the outside edge of who's playing tackle and run around and then force Justin out of the pocket or quicken the pace of the read. But on 1st down, 2nd down, I'm going to beat his face into the ground.
I'm so ready to play football right now.
I mean, that's game 1, man. Nick Bosa is walking through that door on September 11th.
Tom Thayer's got us all ready for training camp.
Oh, my God.
In 5 minutes, he got us all ready
seriously,
for it.